My name is Steve Faber. I'm the Communications and Marketing Manager for the Kent County Department of Public Works. This is a version of the presentation we've been giving to the local community about flow control and governance, and really the future of the Department of Public Works over the next several years. In this presentation, we'll talk about our current system, where we're headed as a department and a community, and then how that relates to the future of flow control and governance. The Kent County Department of Public Works operates an integrated waste management system, meaning it operates a fleet of facilities that work together to not only provide disposal options for residents and businesses in Kent County, but also different landfill diversion technologies. I'll give you a brief overview of these different facilities. The first is North Kent Transfer Station. A new North Kent Transfer Station building was constructed last year. It really addresses the need for additional capacity to serve Northern Kent County. That's available to commercial haulers so that they don't have to go to other area landfills. They can move to this facility and then it gets transferred out. It also provides an access point for residents and commercial or contractors. We have some different landfill diversion techniques or technologies here. The first is our recycling drop-off center. We also have a charm center, which is a center for hard to recycle material. We have a polystyrene foam densifier that's coming online here this year, and then we're looking at piloting some organic drop-off. The Recycling and Education Center is in downtown Grand Rapids. That facility is what we call a single stream recycling facility, so it really processes that curbside recycling that a lot of us use, as well as some commercial recycling. That facility is designed really around those commodities. The Admin and Safe Chem Center is located adjacent to the Recycling Education Center. It has our flagship Household Hazardous Waste Center, so it collects household hazardous waste as well as electronics. There are 4 additional collection sites around Kent County, so on any given day of the week, there is a place where residents can bring that material. The Waste to Energy facility on Market Avenue, this facility was up and running in around 1990. It's about 35 years into its life, and it processes material from the 6 cities in the core area of Kent County. And then finally, we have our South Kent landfill on 100th, and we have the property that's been secured for the future sustainable business park. South Kent landfill is the last operating landfill in Kent County, and we oversee 3 other closed landfills. So we oversee a landfill in North Kent, as well as Sparta and Kentwood. So we view this integrated waste management system as kind of a 3-legged stool. We have our source separated material like recycling, we have our waste energy facility, and then we still have landfill, including North Kent Transfer Station and South Kent landfill. Kent County businesses generate roughly 100 million tons of solid waste each year. That includes construction and demolition waste, industrial waste, yard waste, other household or other hazardous waste. Approximately 600,000 to 650,000 tons of that million tons is what we call municipal solid waste, and that's generated primarily from households and commercial businesses. Most of that material currently touches our system at one of these facilities. However, we do have municipal solid waste that leaves the county directly and goes to area landfills. And that's really at the heart of what we're trying to do with countywide flow control. Nearly a decade ago, the Kent County Department of Public Works set a vision to divert more material from landfill and create a pathway where, when the time came, we wouldn't be in a position where we had to build a new landfill in Kent County. As we've engaged with the community, we've heard from different stakeholders about why it's important to them that we do something different other than landfilling. These are just some examples of that. Some are motivated really by conservation and stewardship of the environment. Others see the economic development potential in doing more than just burying trash. There really is a public health and ongoing liability argument to be made. Landfills really require multi-generational monitoring. And so if we can make decisions today that don't commit future generations to deal with some of these issues, a lot of people see that as a positive. Kent County is really seen as a leader in how we manage waste. And so this really maintains our leadership position, shows the broader industry and the state and the nation really how we can move away from landfilling. There is growing public pressure, so there are people that really want to see our community go zero waste to landfill, and more businesses have adopted that philosophy as well. The public-private partnership angle is really important in West Michigan, and what we've seen through this process is that local industry is and others are really stepping up to meet some of the demands. And then finally, we have new mandates. So the state of Michigan just passed new legislation last year that requires every county in Michigan to develop a materials management plan. That plan needs to show how we're moving towards a 30% recycling rate, and it puts in new restrictions and really incentives to move us towards that goal. So a lot of people want to just kind of understand where flow of material goes today. And so this flow chart shows in a more simplified version where municipal solid waste is going today in Kent County. So on the far left, you see 600,000 tons of MSW that's generated every year. Of that 600,000 tons, about 150,000 tons of that is delivered directly to South Kent landfill by area haulers. About 250,000 tons is delivered to our waste to energy facility, and the small line you see coming out of waste to energy below the power symbol there is the ash that's created, and that currently goes to South Kent landfill. The other line is what it gets transferred out to other area landfills. That's primarily because waste to energy is designed to process about 200,000 tons of material, and we're getting more material than we can currently process at that facility. The North Kent Transfer Station receives about 95,000 tons of MSW from Kent County, and that again is transferred to area landfills. And then finally, there's about 120,000 tons per year of MSW that is delivered directly to area landfills and does not currently touch Kent County facility. And then at the very bottom there, you see what our recycling center processes, about 25,000 tons of Kent County generated single stream recycling. So when we add that all up, we're at about a 28% diversion rate for material from landfill. And a big reason for that 28% diversion rate is because we continue to be able to operate the waste to energy facility, which has the capacity to really process material that then doesn't end up in a landfill. These numbers don't include some of that other material we talked about in a previous slide, like construction and demolition waste, soils, and other material. As mentioned, there are area private landfills. So as we think about South Kent landfill closing here in a few years, a lot of people have asked, well, where is that material going to go? And we do have landfill capacity in West Michigan. So these are several privately owned landfills. And then the chart on the right is what Eagle has reported as remaining permitted capacity. That doesn't include additional capacity beyond what's been permitted today. So you can see that there are anywhere from 18 to 41 years of capacity left. On average, these landfills don't receive a lot of Kent County's municipal solid waste today because that primarily flows to our facility. So in the late 80s, in order to build waste to energy, the county and the 6 cities of Grand Rapids, East Grand Rapids, Walker, Granville, Kentwood, and Wyoming partnered to create a flow district. And that flow district or flow control requires that any hauler that picks up combustible municipal solid waste in those communities is required to bring that to the waste to energy facility. So those local cities have local ordinances that state that, and then they have a contract with the county. So today we're getting about 250,000 tons of MSW coming into waste to energy each year. As mentioned earlier, we have the capacity to process about 190 to 210,000, and so we're transferring out material as well as the final ash product after the incineration. Of note too is that currently about almost 60% of Kent County residents live in a flow district, and that's been the case since the late 80s. One of the chief considerations in moving towards a countywide flow control ordinance is to make sure that we can keep waste to energy functioning until 2039. We're currently wrapping up about $45 million of rehab projects at Waste to Energy, and we want to make sure that that facility remains viable until 2039 when our power purchase agreement with Consumers Energy expires. That power purchase agreement really is part of how we generate revenue in order to support that facility. In 2039, Waste to Energy will be nearly 50 years old as a power plant, and so we're really thinking ahead towards what does the future look like beyond that facility. But currently, we are doing our work to make sure that Waste to Energy, which is our chief way of diverting material from landfill, will continue to operate in our community. As we do that, we can still divert nearly 3 million tons of municipal solid waste from landfilling by 2039 by keeping that facility operating. That facility has already processed nearly 6 million tons of material, which has prevented an entire landfill from being built in our community. As we mentioned earlier, we have these municipal service contracts with these Metro 6 cities, and then they have the local ordinances. Those are all set to expire in December, and so we need to make sure that we're looking at how to put new ordinances in place that drive material to that facility. The analysis that's been done over the last decade really shows that without flow control, waste to energy can't stand up on its own. Part of that is with the increased tip fees, it loses volume as well as revenue. We're currently supporting waste energy with our landfill. So as we exit the landfill business, we will need to adjust pricing at waste energy, which will further drive material away. And then one suggestion that people have said is, why don't you bring in material from out of Kent County or even out of state? And we really don't see that as a viable way of funding waste to energy. Waste to energy was constructed to really be a solution for Kent County and not be a solution for other counties that need to or want to dispose of their waste. So as we think about updating flow control and moving that to a countywide ordinance, there are several things that we considered and have been, again, communicating with the community about. First, it would apply to the whole county. So instead of just the 6 cities and different parts of the county having different rates, it would create what we call rate equity. So it would avoid this sort of piecemeal approach, and any ton that is brought to a Kent County owned facility would be subject to the same tip fee. That means we can enforce it and we can be consistent across the county so that for the future, everybody is playing by the same rules. It avoids confusion, and it would apply equally to all the commercial haulers as well as residents across the county. And what flow control does is it allows us really long-term assurances needed for future financing and entering into longer-term contract agreements. And so a lot of times if we're talking about future investments, they require more time to pay those things off. And so flow control makes sure that there is the revenue coming in order to support diversion activities. We know that flow control is consistent with the state's new Public Act 115 and the materials management planning process. It is designed really to incentivize recycling and further incentivize source separation of organics and recycling. Flow control would maintain the county's authority and really our charge to protect the environment and public health. We know where material is going. We have the opportunity to process that, to pull out valuable material and make sure that hazardous waste or other things are not going into landfills. And then finally, the BPW, the Board of Public Works, is responsible for setting the future-wide tip fees, system-wide tip fees, and we're proposing a new governance structure that would go along with that, that puts more authority into different parts of the county. A little bit more on the suggested flow control ordinance. This was recommended by the Board of Public Works last year. We paused bringing it to the full board while some dust settled on the Sustainable Business Park project. However, many of the challenges that we were looking to address haven't gone away. So we still need to find a future for waste to energy and the desire and the goal to move away from landfill. So by bringing flow control forward, we are able to ensure that waste to energy will have a sufficient feedstock and that really this county asset is supported by the whole county, not just those 6 cities. It also provides a pathway to build a new South Kent transfer station, first and foremost, and then that will lay the groundwork for hopefully some future mixed waste processing and energy production, but that's really a decision for a future date. It sets a tipping fee rate equity goal across Kent County so that everyone is paying the same tip fee. That doesn't necessarily mean everybody pays the same trash rate. The tip fee is just one component of what residents and businesses pay. That ordinance designates the facilities that would be delivered to. Today, that is projected to go into effect in 2026, and that material would flow to a Kent County owned facility or a transfer station. And those designated facilities then would be built to the capacity to take that material. It defines the type of material, so we're really only talking about municipal solid waste. This doesn't apply to construction and demolition waste. It doesn't apply to industrial waste, yard waste, and then any source separated materials. So it's not flow controlling recycling or any kind of organics, but it really focuses on municipal solid waste. It then also outlines a process for exemptions. So our current flow control has the same provisions where we can exempt certain businesses or others from coming to waste to energy because that material just isn't suited for that. And so there's a process that those businesses and haulers can go through in order to be exempt. Similar provisions would be in this new ordinance. And it really sets the effective date and the compliance date. So we know that we need to solve to waste to energy in terms of that particular flow control agreement and those contracts expiring, but we can continue to work with the community throughout 2025 to set that proper and acceptable effective date and compliance date. So we've done some back of envelope on this in terms of what it would potentially cost based on today's system, and then really looking at building that new South Kent transfer station. So today, depending on where a hauler delivers material that's picked up, they're paying a different tip fee. So for residents in the city of Grand Rapids or the other cities of East Grand Rapids, Kentwood, Wyoming, Granville, and Walker, those haulers that pick up that material are paying $75 a ton when they bring that to waste to energy. If that same ton is going to either our North Kent transfer station or South Kent landfill, the price is $55 a ton. And if they're delivering that material out of Kent County to their local or private landfill, that may be as low as $20 or as high as $45 a ton. There's different estimates on that, but for simplification, we said $45 a ton tip fee. So when you project this out, there would be shifts. So we're anticipating that for residents that live in one of those 6 cities, their haulers would see a reduction in their tip fee. For other parts of the county, there might be a slight increase in that tip fee. And then for other areas of the county that may have haulers delivering their material directly to their private landfill today, there might be a slightly larger increase. The benefit of that is everyone in the county then is paying towards our landfill diversion technologies, including waste to energy, and then this new South Kent transfer station, and then hopefully in the future there'll be additional facilities that will help us to divert more material. Ultimately, the Board of Public Works sets that future tip fee. They do that today for all of our facilities, and it really is based on a rate study. It looks at what it currently costs to operate our system, including the recycling center, waste to energy, our North Kent transfer station, our landfill, and all the programs and services that we offer. And then the tip fee is set in order to pay for those services, and that process would continue into the future. So as we think about this system 2030 and beyond, there are a number of opportunities. So initially, again, by passing countywide flow control, we ensure that waste to energy stays part of our system, as well as the recycling education center, because we do backstop the costs of that from revenue we get from the landfill. So as we exit the landfilling business, we have to make sure that we're still able to generate the revenue to provide these diversion technologies. This would continue to support North Kent Transfer Station, and then we'd have our new South Kent Transfer Station. And then the future, we'd really be looking at some pre-processing capacity. We'd still think there's a future there for bioenergy, but those projects really are things that we would come back and talk with the community about. There's also a lot of a new technology coming on board for what we call pre-processing, so we'll talk a little bit about that. But we see the ability to put more pre-processing at the transfer station, at waste energy, to really pull out those materials that we know are relatively easy to recycle. So the plastics and the papers and the organics. So this is just an example of that type of pre-processing facility. It's very similar to what you would see at our recycling center. It's just designed for municipal solid waste. So it's using a series of sorters, screens, mechanisms in order to separate those different materials. This one is designed to pull out some organic material as well as the more valuable plastics and paper. And these can be retrofitted into existing facilities or built new. So we do still have our property for this future sustainable business park that really is envisioned for where this new South Kent transfer station would be located, adjacent to the existing South Kent landfill. South Kent landfill has roughly 5 years left of capacity before it will fill. And so we're really trying to plan for how do we make sure we have disposal options in southern Kent County. This would be a transfer station that would accept waste from commercial haulers, but it would also continue to serve residents of Kent County, so it gives them a disposal option. It still would be a place that contractors and others could bring their material. And we still see a future where other tenants could locate at this facility. There is land there for future composting, for other technologies to join Kent County's diversion goals. Again, this property has been paid for, and it has some money set aside to build out the infrastructure. This chart really shows the difference between what is being proposed as sort of the future state versus continuing down a road where we would build another landfill if that was possible. So I'll briefly go through this. So first of all, the tip fee, what's being proposed in this future state is with countywide flow control, we'd be looking at anywhere from a $60 to $65 per ton tip fee. Again, that's right in the middle of about what folks are paying today to deliver to our North Kent Transfer Station, South Kent Landfill, or Waste to Energy. This at $60 to $65 per ton, we'd have the ability to incentivize recycling and lower that recycling tip fee. We would be able to make sure that we have revenue to pay for the South Kent Transfer Station and get that up and running in conjunction with closing South Kent Landfill, so that that's a seamless transition. We'd maintain our 30% waste diversion and really have a pathway to continue to work on higher diversion rates. This really is the pathway to make sure that Waste to Energy can continue to serve our community for the next 15 years while those other technologies are brought into the fold. We would be able to begin closing South Kent Landfill and beginning that post-closure process. It would require this countywide flow control, and then we'd have this suite of facilities between the Recycling Education Center, Waste to Energy, North Kent Transfer Station, and then a South Kent Transfer Station. It is compliant with the materials management plan that has been set out from the state, and we'd really be looking to that committee and that planning process to help inform the directions that we go with these different facilities. We do have money set aside for infrastructure down at the Sustainable Business Park property, and so with this model, we would at least be able to start building out that facility for the future transfer station, and then in the future there would be private partners that would be able to develop other parts of that facility. We would really be looking to begin that infrastructure development in the next year or two, get the South Kent Transfer Station up and running in roughly 2028, while the South Kent landfill begins moving towards its final years. We think that the South Kent landfill can carry us to about 2030. And then hopefully through some of the new partnerships, we'd be able to really look at some more of this pre-processing. We're not looking at flow control to fund those things today. It's really about making sure we can keep Waste to Energy moving, that we can close South Kent landfill and still be able to build the South Kent Transfer Station and support all of these diversion technologies and programs. On the other side, you have this sort of status quo model that if the community decided they wanted to build another landfill, really by the time that landfill is up and running and accepting material, we're going to be in that $60 to $70 per ton range, we believe. That has fit pretty well with what we've seen in the rate growing over the years. There are just ongoing and continued cost operating landfills, and those are going up. We would really need to be either backstopping Waste to Energy, or we would have to retire that facility early and build some sort of transfer station in the center city, so that we have a way to move material out of the core without sending individual trucks everywhere. May require some bonding. We really think and know that without Waste to Energy, our diversion rate, that's not even our recycling rate, but our diversion rate really plummets and moves down into that 6 to 8% range. We would still have to close South Kent landfill, but then we have to go through the permitting process to open the new landfill. And that can be a 5 to 6 year process. We wouldn't have flow control. but then we'd really commit our community to several more decades of new landfills. If we just said, hey, we're not going to go into the landfill business again, then we do have this cascade of decisions that likely result in losing the Recycling Education Center and Waste to Energy and not being able to keep North Kent Transfer Station going as well. We don't really see this as being compliant or moving us in the direction that the state is asking us to go. We do have real costs associated with creating a new landfill as well. And again, going through the whole permitting process isn't a done deal. That does take a long time, and it takes a lot of local approvals. So one other final thing that we're really exploring here is a new governance structure. So part of what we've heard from the community over the last several years is that they would like to have more of a voice in decision making. And so part of this would be restructuring the Board of Public Works. We have a 7-member policy board today, but this would change that to, instead of 5 county commissioners, you would seat 4 county commissioners on that board, and then you'd have representation from smaller and larger communities. And then by state statute, we still have our drain commissioner. And we would also propose setting up a new technical committee that would be made up of area stakeholders to help inform that policy. So we are anticipating this decision going in front of the Board of Commissioners here in November of 2024 for approval. And again, the implementation and the compliance and effectiveness dates go out into later in 2025 and early 2026, so that gives us time to plan and to transition. I encourage anyone that has additional questions to contact myself or Dar Boss at the Department of Public Works. There is also a significant amount of work and reports that were done leading up to and through this Sustainable Business Park project that includes flow control and this new governance work that's available on our website as well. So thank you for taking the time to listen to this. And again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to call.